Okay, give it another minute here before we get this thing cracked open. Keep us going with Smash Mouth. Okay, 102, Virtual Intelligence Webinar, April edition. Spring break, MTV, 90s, 2000s coming at you with your hosts, myself, Carson Davey, complete with the VI hat. I will tell the audience here today, I'm having some trouble here at spring break. When I throw these cheap polarized glasses on, I can see nothing, but I do want to have you see the fit for full effect. Also, I am rocking cargo shorts to stay in character for Carson Davey. So thank you all for joining us. Athena is my co-host. She's going to be joining us today, and we're going to cover we're going to spring break today. But here's the point, guys. We've asked some really cool friends of ours to join and talk about their experiences as insurance agency owners and in their platform with their podcast as well. We thought this was really important because the whole insurance world and in your real lives, you just went through spring break. And we had calls with agents that couldn't enjoy their spring break because they didn't have their business lined out correctly. And I say that not just about virtual employees, but organization, workflow, and labor, and licensed tasks and non-licensed tasks. So today's podcast, today's episode, this webinar, if you will, is all about trying to make sure that Sean and Steven share their experiences with you so that you can get a break, a spring break, a mental break, whatever you need. So thank you all for joining MTV Spring Break Virtual Intelligence Edition. First, matter of housekeeping. I need everybody to get out your cellular telephones and scan the QR code you see on screen. Why this is good is you will actually be participating in an interactive game format with everyone. You'll actually be voting. If you've ever been to a good keynote conference style event, you want to do this so you can pay attention. We do have poll questions and things like that, and we definitely want you to pay attention. It's a very cool thing. So get signed in. This is kind of your housekeeping note there to do that, okay? Scan that code. There's some questions that are going to come up. Again, thank you all for joining. Sean and Steven are coming in hot. Okay, first of all, I had some fun with them a little bit because they agreed to do this, Sean and Steven did, and then I got involved and made it way more complicated than they were probably ready to do. So they have been really, really excellent guests for this. So I will say that Virtual Intelligence partners specifically with this group because in my estimation, there would be no insurance industry if it weren't for scratch agents. If you think about it, every independent agency was a scratch agency once. And so Sean and Steven's platform with the Scratch Agency podcast is just a natural alignment for us at Virtual Intelligence, in terms of their stories, how they're trying to shine a light on scratch agents. I also think, too, that every time you hire a producer in your agency, it's a scratch agency. And so the things that Sean and Steven, their audience, their listeners, and their friends and peers in the insurance industry know is this is one of the hardest things to do is to start a scratch agency. And so we're excited to partner with them. So you'll hear me referencing a lot today, the Scratch Agency podcast. Make sure you follow them. They're an official member of Agency Intelligence Podcast as well. But without further ado, one by one, Steven Turnbull, from the heart of upstate New York, where the winters are fierce and the insurance game fiercer, emerges the titan of T5 insurance services. Born and bred in Utica, the Empire State Enforcer Turnbull didn't just start an agency, he ignited a revolution. And Sean, Straight out of the rugged coast of Sound Harbor Insurance, he's the tempest that turned the tides and transformed the insurance landscape. Legend has it, he once negotiated a policy with Poseidon himself. Give it up for the Scratch Agency podcast host and our guest today, Sean and Steven. Steven, Sean, just tell us a little bit about your agency, where you're located, how long you've been in business. Sean, you go first.
Yeah, my name is Sean Fitzgerald, loving husband and father of two little rugrats. I've been in the insurance industry about 15 years, and I opened up my agency in 2020 in Long Island, New York, specializing in coastal homeowners insurance and business insurance.
Awesome. Steven?
Well, first off, I appreciate Athena's changing her hat to New York. She had the LA hat in front of us New York boys here, so that wasn't the best start, but that's okay. My name's Steven Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance. We'll be 3 years old next month. Beautiful wife, Michaela, here in Utica, New York, and we just welcomed our first child, Margot Kate, last month. So we got a newborn and going through all that, but started T5. And we are located in Utica, New York. And yes, there is more of us up here than just down by Long Island and the city where Sean is. And a fun story about how we met, I'm sure we can get into later, but really appreciate you having us and happy to be here.
Well, let's do that. I mean, look, anybody listening to how we do it at VI, maybe how you guys do it is much more organized. We do our meetings as chaos. We're always ready to pivot. Tell us that story about how you guys got hooked up. I think it's a great story.
Take it away, T5.
All right. So I left my family's agency back in 2022, May of 2022, and started T5 from scratch. And I appreciate you saying the independent agent, there wouldn't be without scratch agents. That's the truth. And Sean and I met through a connection of once I posted on social media that I was leaving. Louis Gazatua, who's a friend of our show down in the Florida area, connected us. Just said, hey, you two would be great for each other. Sean started a few months prior that I did. And I always tell everybody, Sean and I are on the same escalator. We're just on different steps in the journey. And we've become really close friends. And through that friendship, a few months in, Sean was like, hey, we got to start a podcast and document that. And so that's what we've done. I think actually a couple hours ago, we just recorded episode 116, and it's been an incredible journey. We built a great community of scratch agents. We got a Telegram community, about 72 scratch agents right now across the country that are in the trenches right now building a scratch agency. So it's been a great experience, and we're super fortunate to have you guys partner the show and be a part of it.
You bet. I just think it's such a cool, it's I don't know that you can claim it on your taxes, but it is a lot of charity, right? It's giving back to the spirit of, hey, look, there's plenty of business out there for all of us. There's plenty of types of groups that we need to compete against as independent agents. Let's at least make sure that if we're competing, we compete on the same plane with the same professional expectations. And so, it raises, all boats rise at the same time.
Absolutely.
So thanks for your partnership too. Again, if you have not logged in with your phone, scan that QR code because we are playing some games. Athena and I are going to put Sean and Steven through the absolute ringer. We are going to throw them some curveballs. We're going to see if they can, do some sort of spring break contest and get really no, I'm kidding. These are just really good questions about the insurance industry. So please, we do want audience interaction with you. Okay. Question number one. By the way, if you guys don't know me, I guess I'm Davey, president of VI, right? I should say that. Athena, you should say hi, who you are, what you do for VI. Say hello. How are you today, by the way? By the way, the switch to New York overall was well played.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Of course. Hello, everyone. My name's Athena. I'm a new member here at VI. I'm in the sales team. I work directly with Davey and Nico and Suzelle. Super excited to be here today hosting the show alongside with Davey. And I'm excited to see everyone's responses.
Awesome. All right. Okay. First question, Athena. We do want to get Sean and Steven's answer on this one, and then we'll open it up for a poll for everybody else. But Athena, go ahead.
All right, everybody. Where would you go on spring break if your agency could run without you?
Let's go, Steven. You go first.
I would go on a very long cruise. Love cruises. My wife and I went on a cruise for our honeymoon, and she was like totally afraid of being on a boat, never been on one at the time, and completely sold her on it. And now we love them. So we'd be going on a nice Caribbean cruise somewhere.
Okay. Everybody get in there. Make your votes. We know Steven's going on a cruise. Sean?
So prior to having a 2-year-old and 3-year-old, I would have said my wife and I are going to go fly to Greece and spend some time on the beach and travel and explore. Now that I have two little rugrats, that is the last thing I want to do. So I will probably take Stephen up on a cruise where we can throw those two rugrats into some sort of daycare and enjoy some peace and quiet. So
I,
That's
I'm
awesome.
I'm amazed. We added the do nothing, right, which kind of fits that category, Sean, to be like, I'm not doing anything if I get free time away. It looks like the leading answers are beach and Europe still. If that rubs salt in the wound of the decision to have children, Sean, sorry for that. We appreciate your
they're amazing.
service. Okay, now we're going to get into some insurance specific type questions. This is the boring part. Okay. Athena, feel free to fire away at Sean and see if he knows what and look, on this one, give your market examples too of what it's like in this. But Athena, the question, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear these answers. All right, what's the average hourly cost of a licensed CSR in the US?
So I'm in the downstate New York area, not too far from the city. So I would imagine it's somewhere in the ballpark of $45 an hour or more.
Okay. Steven?
Yeah, I'm in the upstate. At the upstate prices, I would probably say 30, maybe around then.
Okay. What's it been like the last time you attempted not to use VI, not to use an outsource? And what was it like when you tried to hire the last staff member? How did it go? How long did you have the
Yeah.
job posted? What kind of candidates did you get? What was their background?
So process for me actually went a little smoother than I thought. Since I was a scratch agent, I had to, and I'm also in a big city, I had to look to hire outside of the state. So for a remote position within the US. And we actually found a part-time licensed CSR, which some people that I've talked to within the industry were against, and some mentors of mine in the industry said it would be a great idea if you need a licensed person, and a good way to start. So that's what I did. I hired remote, out of state, out of my big city for a licensed seasoned person part-time. And it honestly, it worked out great. So
Is that person
obviously
still
that's
with
going
you?
to all depend
Is
on
that
where you
person
live.
still with you, Sean?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had them almost a year now. And like I said, the part-time thing is working much better than I thought it would. They work from 10 to 2 Monday through Friday.
Licensed person, right?
Licensed, found them on Indeed. And funny enough, if you put on Indeed, it's a remote position, you're going to get blown up a resume. So be prepared.
Wants it. Yeah. That's why we've had so much success at VI. I think in both countries we offer this remote flexibility, even in the other
Yeah.
countries.
Yep.
Whereas
It's a big deal.
a lot of our competitors are having to prioritize really, really low quality, low pay talent, and they can't give them the flexibility of our VEs to work remotely in their countries even. Look, I always tell people too, if it's agency owners, you can find your unicorn, your person live in the US that has a license that you can afford, that you can train, that you can trust. I don't compete against that. The VA space does not compete against that. And Sean hit the lottery ticket here. We don't see that as a regular instance or the experience of being able to hire. But if you got it, get it, right? Steven, similar experience, better, worse?
Little better, but I would say it took some time. I mean, the agency's very community involved, so it was all word of mouth. So that's how we've had success from a recruiting standpoint. But I mean, it does take time, to find the right person, especially if you're going that route of asking referral partners, clients, community members. But we've had success so far with that.
Conversely, after you made the decision to hire virtual intelligence, how long before we had somebody ready for you?
Quick, a week or so. And what I liked, and I know we were going to talk about this a little bit, but Sean and I both had separate experiences with different VE companies or VEs direct. But what I like about the onboarding with you guys was it's very personable and everybody's kind of ready to go. So there's an opportunity that you can see the VEs answering questions, see how they communicate, see how they respond to different types of questions. And then they put you in a portal so that you can see what's going on with the different applicants that are available. So I think that's a value add.
So I'm putting on the game here. What's the average cost of a CSR in your market? You can either put that by hourly rate or salary. $45 an hour. We saw. I know there's going to be some answers that are higher than that. I know there's going to be some. I think the idea 60,000 a year. You got to factor in when you don't outsource. You got not just payroll, benefits, HR, unemployment, all those things. When you outsource, you work with a company. They find you somebody quickly, and you can terminate the person without any blowback or fear that this person's going to sue you for an HR claim, right?
Yeah.
Because of wrongful termination. That's why you use the staffing agencies. Expensive out there. I think everybody in the market knows that hiring ain't so easy. Look, fun question. How busy can you keep a VE? And I'm kind of stealing this question from you, Athena, because I want to change it a little bit. We said initially, what's the average number of non-licensed tasks done in an agency each week? But how productive? The question is for you guys: how productive can your VE actually be? What can one of the questions we get all the time is, hey, what's the capacity of a virtual employee? Right? Maybe that's a good way to answer it. So Stephen, what can you really depend on or expect from your VE to get done in a day or a week in terms of tasks?
Yeah, I joked with you before the show, Davey. My VE's currently sick right now, and he's been out of the agency for 2 days, and it's the first time ever that he's been out. And like, if there's what, tell him to go away for a couple of days if you want to see what they're doing, because we're finding that out real quick. But I think with this question, the first answer everybody resorts to is like quoting, right? Okay, get that off of our plate, non-licensed. There's so much more that our VE does for us. So he manages my inbox and manages scheduling remote like Zoom calls, all of that. So if I need him to set up an appointment with somebody, he's taking care of that. But from the new business process, he's taking care of all of the quoting, all of the data entry, making sure everything's in the management system and all of that, up until the point that I'm ready to present the quote. And to give everybody who's watching a little perspective on our setup, we are a 3-person team right now, including myself. So I'm handling all of the sales still in the scratch journey. And so Emmanuel, who's on our team, is handling everything from the end of the conversation that I have with that prospect to getting the quote prepared so that I do the video proposal and then sell it. So it's taken a lot of that pain point on the back end of quoting, going to the market, seeing where they're going to be a right fit. It's been huge for us.
Okay. Sean, same, agree?
Yeah, everything that Steven said, I wrote a few things down just because there is a laundry list of things that mine does specifically. And what I do like about the virtual intelligence model is at the end of every day, they send you a spreadsheet of what tasks they did complete. And that's good for a bunch of different reasons I won't go into, but it gives you a good breakdown of what they've done. So for me, managing my inbox has been a huge thing, managing my calendar, scheduling, like Steven said. A huge thing for me recently, it's super tedious and something I was doing up until a few weeks ago, is uploading. I have a few different carriers in my area that don't download to my AMS. So my VE is able to go into the carrier system or request the commission statement from the carrier, then upload that commission statement into my agency management system, which is super important because we have a producer on our team and our bookkeeper reconciles commissions every couple of weeks. And if those commission statements are not in the management system, it's just a process that used to drive me absolutely crazy up until a couple of weeks ago. So that's something we're honing in. Mortgagee changes, binders, data entry for quoting, obviously. And one of the biggest differences I feel like with other VA services versus virtual intelligence, which was a big pain point for me, was answering the phones, being client facing. So, being scratch, people would just call the agency and my phone would ring. And it was just a constant disruption throughout the day. And I would just take all the calls because I don't want to drop the ball or hurt my retention or piss any clients off. But having that VA be able to at least answer the phone, act like a receptionist, and pass the call to the right licensed person or handle that non-licensed task has definitely been a game changer for me.
Yeah, for sure. Look,
Davey, can I add something to that?
Go ahead. Absolutely.
I just think, Sean and I have been lucky enough with this podcast, we've talked to a lot of scratch agents or agents in the first couple of years are looking to do a VE. And I would say a majority of the time, if people have pain points with VEs and bringing them in their agency, is not the VE company's fault. It's the agencies that are onboarding them. And I think a lot of people oversee the fact of you're bringing on a team member. You need to bring them on like you're bringing on just anybody that's in your office. And the more that you put into them, the more that you're going to get out. And Sean just made me think of a few things, like Emmanuel in our office. He handles all the docu-signing. So he sends those, makes sure they're taken care of, attaches them, all that. And so I think the broad question of like, well, what can they do in the agency? It's limitless as long as you're putting in the effort to set them up for success. Because I think that's sometimes the pain point of people think, wow, they're just plug and play. They know how to do PL Rater and they're off to the races, but you got to put in the time as well.
Let me run something by you guys too. I had a agency owner that's in one of our kind of management consulting type projects for us, and she asked me a really funny question. What we're trying to do in her case is help her with a VA that was not hired by us. Right? She found another agency and they kind of left her, hey, here's your person, peace out, see you later. So they're leveraging our expertise, our training system, our technology. But after the third call, she asked me something very interesting. She said, what should I be expecting out of this VE? Now, remind you, she's already signed a contract with a competitor and is 90 days in and already waving a white flag, and no one has given her guidance as to what she should expect. So to your point, right? Sometimes you got to really hardly look in the mirror and go, hey, what do I need to be doing differently? Right? Because if you don't, your relationship with the VA, with the company that brought you the VA is going to fail. And then that's going to bring you to what? Agency's not going to do so great. In fact, there's a high rate of scratch agencies that just don't cut it because they absorb what I know plenty of your listeners know, the one-man band idea, right? Where they just, you were just talking about it. You Sean, you call, you want them to call you back. I'm the agent, I'm the person, you got to call me. You will always hit your plateau right away, right? Because you cannot grow, you cannot create more time in the day. And a lot of agencies don't figure that out. They go try to buy software, hire producers, and the first hire you should make is a VE. So you can free up your mind to lead your organization, and some people don't get that. So our question now is, and you guys might know this having the sampling size, what percentage of scratch agencies fail in those first 3 years? Do you know that? Have you ever looked that up? We did, but what would you say from a voting standpoint? And I'd love to hear, by the way, a couple housekeeping things. We'd love to know too in the chat or in the voting system here, what percentage of scratch agencies do you think don't make it in the first 3 years? I think it's a high rate because I think even if they don't fail, they get acquired or they go back and rejoin an agency that they left or whatever. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Sean, you first, then Steven, you next. I have an answer, by the way, behind the scenes.
Yeah, I would imagine it's extremely high. And it's probably even higher if you put the first 5 years. So I would say probably somewhere in the ballpark of 75% or more.
Yeah.
Davey, I don't really like this question because I haven't hit the 3-year mark yet. My answer there is 70. I think that's probably an accurate answer, and from people we've talked with and experiences. And I think you make a good point. Either they go back or work for another agency or whatever. I would say about 70.
That's what we found. It's around 50 to 60, depending on how you slice and dice the data. Then you guys also have to take into account, when we looked at the data, we didn't really pull out the independent versus captive agencies, right? We all still, so many people that are scratch independent agents have left, started with a captive, tried to spin out. Those numbers of failures count for the captive groups too, right? Those things are starting up every day, right? Mm-hmm. You're getting somebody that's not an insurance professional, has some money, can buy an agency and try to scratch that one, and they find out pretty quickly that model is not so great, and they immediately try to come over to the independent side. And you guys know better than anybody. What are those challenges on those first few days when you start a scratch agency, right? Or you come from a direct writer and you try to start. What's the first thing you got to make sure you have?
Leads.
Right? Leads and where to put them too, right?
Yeah.
Those are scary times, so how can you also shore up your partnerships and sell enough to keep the lights on? And then also you got to think about your personal life with your beautiful families that you're talking about. Like these scratch agency years are the toughest, right? These are the hardest times. Tell us a little bit, and start with Stephen this time, kind of before and after, right? I've got some prompts up here, but Stephen, tell me the before VEs, before VI, and after VI. What's changed for you in terms of your approach to your agency, your mindset, running your business?
I wasn't going to go this way with it, but the first thing that popped in mind when you asked it, I think it forces you to make processes too early on. You know, I didn't have a VE until I was 8 months in. So 8 months, it was just me doing everything. And like Sean said, answering the phones, quoting, processing this change, putting the ID card out. And like, you know, you have to do that to at a certain point. But then when you get to the point where I think for me, it was like, if I want to scale the agency the way that I want to and the vision that I have for the agency, I need to get X, Y, and Z off my plate. And we talked about quoting, we talked about admin work and all of that. So now knowing that I can get off the phone with a new prospect, we use Risk Advisor in our agency, which is a great tool to gather the data. And I can literally just send to a manual on that. And then I don't show back up until the proposal's ready to go and hit record on the video. So taking a lot of that out has allowed me to do the community work that I do the networking, meet with referral partners, finalize other deals, and really focus on revenue generating activities instead of wearing all the hats.
Sean, same?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. What Stephen said. On top of that, I would add for me just to share a story, and Stephen will appreciate this because he was there with me. When I opened my scratch agency in 2020, up until probably a year and a half in, I brought my laptop bag everywhere, everywhere. Networking events, family events, birthday parties, insurance networking events that I was at with Stephen in the city. There was even a joke around like, oh, you can tell those two are scratch because we both had our laptop bags. And once I brought on a V, and also just to say, don't recommend it. Don't bring your laptop bag to a family event. It does not go well with the wife. So just learn from my mistake. Once I brought on a VE, I was able to leave that laptop bag home. And I was able to not worry, all right, a customer is not going to think, we're closed for the day and no one's getting back to them. She was able to give a message to a client, say, I'll call him back at this time and schedule it in. And it really just gave me the freedom to advance in my personal and professional life. And I think if you want to take it to the next level in your agency, you have to be able to delegate and you need to be more proactive versus reactive. And I think hiring a VE to help with those admin, scheduling, phone calls, those types of tasks are going to make all the difference for you.
Great point.
I'm going to tee up on this one a little bit, but how is it that you can trust somebody in another country where English is not their first language? How do you trust them? How do you trust that your calendar can get managed properly, Sean, that they're actually going to answer your emails, that they're actually going to follow through, that this is not just somebody who you found on the internet to do some work? What do you do specifically to build that relationship and form that trust with somebody in another country? What do you do? How do you build that?
So, yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. Something I struggled with in the beginning, to be very frank with you. I'm in and by New York City. It's a very, you can say New Yorkers are very direct and, not the most patient people in the world. So I think it's just important to train your VE about your marketplace, the type of people they're going to interact with, and you need to role play. Something I struggled with in the beginning, and I still to this day need to be a little bit better at is role playing more of what each call is like, what to expect from clients and customers, giving them a heads up. Hey, these are our top 10 clients. 8 of them are awesome to deal with. These 2 are a bit of a pain. Just a heads up. If you talk to them, they might be a little rough around the edges. So I think it's more of just preparing them on how to interact with specific clients and what to expect from your market. But role playing plays a huge part in that. But you need to, at the end of the day, you need to get over it and just break the chains and let them go, because not everybody is going to be happy about every situation, right? Like, you're not going to please everybody. So I think, David, just to be completely frank with you, I think since we've had Daniela for the last, it's a little over a year now, I think I've maybe had one person say something about it. And we have hundreds of clients, and that one person, honestly, can probably get fired from our agency. So
Right.
yeah, no issues. You just have to be willing to just be willing to delegate it and try it out. Because if you don't, you're just going to wind up trying to do it yourself, and you're not going to wind up delegating anything. You're actually just going to cause yourself more work in the end.
Sean, you let a little nugget out from a couple meetings ago that this is specific to you. We after one of our first prep meetings here, you're like, well, maybe even after talking again with you, Davey, and Athena and Suzelle and our team, maybe there's still left more for me to maximize my VE with. And I'm going to use you as a reference.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sean is a customer and a partner of virtual intelligence and believes holistically and philosophically in the concept of using outsourced labor in his American insurance industry. But after one of our first talks, you're like, I don't know. I'm certainly not, I don't have any barriers to what this person shouldn't do, but there's still a chance that Daniela hasn't hit her ceiling with my agency, that I could have her actually do more things, more complex things, more important and critical things. Because if she did those more important and critical things, whose plate would she be taking them off of?
Yeah.
Yours,
Mine.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's my message here is like, even when you're open, we get a lot of people, to your point about your one insured, Sean, that's probably fireable anyways. Oh, you're complaining about the accent, or I wasn't the person to answer. We're not really ideal for each other in terms of fit anyways, right? But what other things could this person be doing? And Stephen, to you, right? We talked about how for a lot of agencies, they get the allure of outsourced labor and the cost savings, and they go find the first VA company that will do a demo with them, and they hire it because the cost savings is so cheap. But that's a failed methodology. Tell us about you tried this without us before, and then
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah,
I just want to add one thing real quick. Is I think it's more of a culture question. Like, does the VE that you're bringing onto your team, you have to treat them like an employee, interview them, and if they fit your culture and they're the right person, bring them on the team. I think it's more about it's a culture question,
Good
it
point.
is absolutely. I mean, yeah. So I had, when I first started down the VE route, I had one of the direct companies that was much cheaper, and it was someone in India that was working from her house, and it was fine for what I needed at that point. When I realized I needed to change, it took me when I realized I needed to change the VE route for my agency to realize what I was missing until I didn't know it, right? So one thing I want to add, though, Davey, of how you build the trust, and Sean said it, and I'll say it again, you treat them like a team member because they are a team member. That's number one. I think a lot of people think of the VEVA world as like, oh, it's another tool in my toolbox. It's going to help my agency. But no, it's actually your team member. And, like Emmanuel and I have built an amazing relationship over the last year. We talk all the time about stuff that doesn't have to do with the agency. And it's built that trust of just bringing on a team member, like Sean said, with a cultural fit. The other thing that I think is overlooked is the support that VI will, as a professional company, gives you. If Emmanuel has a computer problem and I'm in the middle of trying to work on this big commercial account, I don't have to stop and try to work on his computer. They have an IT department there that takes care of him. He's back and running. If there's an HR issue, they have HR stuff. Like, that's all off of your plate as the agency owner that you don't have to worry about. 100%. And I think it's such a huge, because Sean, I remember you experienced it in the early days too, of some technology issues with a direct one that you have. And just think of it at that point, if you're hiring this person to delegate your time, the last thing you want to do is stop what you're doing and take 2 hours during the day to see why their computer's not working in another country, right? You don't have to worry about that stuff. And I'll think about, I go back to quickly about just the value of working with a professional company like VI is the value of working with us as independent agents. Why should our clients work with us? Because the value we bring, and that's the value they brought to us as clients in the VE space. And I think you just have to think about that, of like the professionalism, and they vet the people, and then you have the opportunity to pick from a pool, and all of that makes a huge difference when you're looking to bring on the next team member.
That's great. And look, I appreciate the praise, gentlemen. It's helpful. I will say, In a weird way, virtual intelligence in and of itself is its own scratch agency. We're not an insurance agency, but Jason started VI and then found Michael, and then we partnered our two companies together because we had brave agents willing to try something and fail that you guys went through, right? I'm going to go try it. I'm going to fail. And then I'm not just going to blame every other vendor that I've ever hired that they were the problem. I'm going to look in the mirror and take some accountability. Turns out Jason and Travis then said, hey, we'll start a whole company of our own to address the actual individual insurance agency experience and do the things that we want to do. I mean, imagine if you could start a company like ours and you're like, hey, I want the company work like I want it to work. Turns out the way Jason and Travis and Michael and I have put this together, hopefully, is that it works how it was supposed to for an insurance agent, not just for cheap labor. So thank you for the praise, but it was born out of the same mistakes that you guys made that you got better on.
Same Davey, I want to share one more quick story.
Go ahead.
Around this topic. So when I'm trying to think of timeline. So like when I switched over to VI, it was actually with Michael before the merger happened, right? And when I did that, I had a different VE than I have now. And there were some internal issues where she just wasn't going to be a good fit. And there were things that being in the US, I wouldn't necessarily pick up on. We were just getting started. And Michael Cruz, one of your partners, came to me and said, hey, this isn't going to work out, but here's the replacement that we have. And this is why it's a good idea for you to do this. And she's not going to work out with us, but here's this new guy. And that's who my current person is. If you had just a direct person and you were just direct, with a random VE company or just direct, there's not going to be that back end support that's looking out for your agency in that way. And I think that was a big aha moment for me of why it's so worth it to partner with a professional company like that has the office, has all the support for them, has the culture there. Sometimes I get on Zoom calls with Emmanuel and there's party music going on in the background. I'm like, what's going on over there? Oh, it's so-and-so's birthday. All right. Oh, so I think it's a completely different feel, especially experiencing the two sides that I have.
For sure. No, it's a great share. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. All right. You know what we're going to do now? We're going to transition into game number 2, but we're going to do that with a little bit of sound. Okay. The question, this is going to be maybe a little embarrassing. Okay. Because I'm going to be asking you guys in those early stages of the agency, what were you thinking? Right? What were you thinking? What were you thinking? Right? So,
I still ask myself that today. I don't know.
Like Derek Bentley said, what was I thinking? Right? All right. So question 1, Athena, you pick. Who do you want to tell the quick story of their craziest customer request? You get to pick and fire it at them and change the question however you want. But Derek Bentley wants to know, what was I thinking?
I think she wants to ask Sean.
You should pick Steven just for saying that.
I don't remember who's East or West, but I'm gonna go with East. East New York.
Okay.
Oh, that's you, Sean. That's you, Mr.
Right,
Sound.
so what are we doing? Craziest customer request?
Customer request that one of your prospects or current client came and said, Sean, I need this. And you're like, what?
Man, I don't know if I have one specific one. There's quite a few, especially on the life insurance side. But
names and real identities will be protected for the sake of the public, of course.
Yeah. I mean, recently, it's not a crazy story, but recently I had a business that I insured. They had a landscaping operation and a floral shop, and it was family members who owned the business. And basically, there was some falling out between the family members. And it was just a nightmare. Like both of them were reaching out to me. Hey, we got to split this policy. We got to take this policy. We got to put this auto over here, this building over there, this GL policy over here. And it was like, just from this one breakup, it had to be like 38 different policy changes. And I was just like, thank God I have a VE. So I would say that's probably one of my craziest stories as far as just something that involved like a ton of different changes.
Steven, let's go to you next.
Please have something more exciting than that, Steven.
Yeah. Well, no. We're gonna keep the pace. I'm gonna give you a different question. I want to go to your most embarrassing mistake, Steven. And by the way, he tried to tell us in the prep call, it's going to be tough for me to find one.
Yeah,
right?
Sean's the one you guys put mistakes. No, I thought about this since you asked the question originally, but I think, I don't know if embarrassing is the tone for this, but in the early days, there were a lot of mistakes or oversights because there wasn't a process and there wasn't any support besides myself. And I was only doing what I could do. And at the end of the day, we're all human. We can only do and keep up with as much requests as possible. So I think of just like a lot of back and forth of like, oh, we issued this, but we still need this. And like, there wasn't the clear process that made the client maybe think, what the hell's this kid doing? But again, going back to the VE conversation, bringing a VE in will allow you to make those processes in the early days and develop those processes so there's not those holes in the process when it comes. I can't think of an embarrassing story. I'm sure I'll think about it, once this call ends. But I think just kind of like being all over the place in the early days because I was juggling everything.
Yeah, forgetting to return a call, I think for me, that stuff is embarrassing. You're getting a bunch of calls and you tell somebody you're going to get back to them and you don't. To me, that's what's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So here, I just thought.
There you go. Steven just thought of somebody he forgot to call back that he's going to call as soon as.
Not one specific story, but you bring up a good point of like now. Again, in our agency, we do a lot of community stuff. So I'm on a few different boards. We do a lot of like, we're in different networking groups and all of that. So I'm out of the agency a majority of the time, coffee shops, whatever. But if something comes up and someone, says, hey, I want a quote on this, or give me a call, I can just easily message Emmanuel and say, hey, put this on my calendar, put it on my to-do list. And so like, whereas in the past, I may have forgot about that. So I think that's something that could help. I still don't have a great embarrassing story. I'm sorry. I thought Sean would really help us out with that one.
Look. It's kind of like you guys.
Athena's going to put the LA hat back on.
Yeah. She's going back to West Coast. Look, that was a little bit. I'm going to give you a hard time because I love you. That was a little bit of like in a job interview. Give me your biggest weaknesses, and you both said, "Well, because I try too hard." But that's okay. That's okay.
Hey, that's the New York in us.
I love it. The game is always on, and we love it. Hey, did you guys ever think about giving up?
Yes.
Did you ever think about like, I mean, maybe the phone, look, you guys probably also get the phone calls. Hey, why don't you just let us buy you out? Or a time where you just thought like, man, how do I come up over this mountain? Not really actually giving up in the sense that you were going to give up, but you were ready to pull your hair out. Right, I'm working 80 hours a week. I'm away from my beautiful family. What am I doing? I should have went and worked for the big shop. Why did I scratch this thing? Why did I start from the beginning? When did those gut check moments hit? How far into the agency journey did that hit?
I'm going to be honest with you. I joke with Steven a lot about it, but I never had the feeling to actually do it. My wife from the beginning, she's very like analytical and wants to know what's your plan B, C, D, E, F, G. And I am the complete opposite. And it's a good thing and a bad thing, but I never had a plan B. Like, this is going to work and this is what I'm doing. So for me, I never really thought about it that way.
I think with Sean and I both kind of have similar stories. There's a lot of why behind why we went scratch and why we're doing what we're doing. So I think that fuels a lot of that. But I'll also add that I think a lot of that comes from the circle that we built around us. We're in a mastermind group that has people that are scratch, and they're a huge help on the hard days of like, man, I got kicked today. And so I would just say in general, like, make sure you're creating a circle that you can bounce off of, because there's nothing better than talking to people that actually get it. And both of our wives are very supportive, but at the end of the day, they don't get what we went through the entire day in the insurance world and all that. So I think that's been a huge help, because same with Sean, I've never had the feeling of truly giving up, but I think on those hard days, it's a lot easier to talk through it with people that are in the trenches with you.
For sure. If you haven't read the book, There's No Plan B for Your A Game by Bo Eason, highly recommended. Talks about this subject specifically a lot. And I think it's good whether you're scratch or 20 years into your agency.
Well, I think, again, to that agent of mine, friend of mine, who she was like, what should I expect from my VE? Mm-hmm. My answer also, another way I answered it, true or false on this person is not just somebody who's an admin. This person is your ride or die.
Yep.
Right? Hey, I at the business, like, look, to your point, Sean, You're the one that's allowing me to not have to bring my business laptop to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of you. Just handle my calls, handle my emails, make sure none of my best customers or my worst customers slip through the cracks. Right?
Like I said, when we started, it could have been more timing with my VE being out sick this week because it hasn't happened since he's worked with us, and I'm we're feeling it the last couple of days. I can tell you that.
Okay. Well, let's go to a rapid fire-ish round. This is called delegate it or keep it. And first question is, you guys can rapid fire this. In your agency, when an insured calls and they need a certificate, is that something somebody with a license or you guys should do, or you should delegate it to a VE?
So
You got to be careful. You got to be careful with this one. I would say, I mean, just to throw in my 2 cents here, I would say delegate most of them. But if you have a complex one, specifically like where I'm at in the city with contractors, you might want to just peek at it before you send it off. But they could at least do 90% of it for you.
Yep.
But to your point, Sean, peeking at it is better than doing the whole thing.
100%.
Our end, we're about 70% personal lines, so a majority of what the VE handles is personal lines, unless there's some one-off thing that I know he can take care of. But he handles all of the binders we do a lot with new home buyers, so getting all those binders out, I don't even have to look at them. And that's just been, again, treating him like a team member, training him. So once the apps are signed, he goes into DocuSign, gets those, boom, boom, binders out, sends it to the mortgage lender, and we're good to go. And that's something I've been able to take off my plate. So not necessarily certificates, but a little different world since we're primarily personal lines. But that's been something we've had success with.
I'd be interested, and this is anonymous voting, so they can reveal themselves or not, who said keep. And only because sometimes people get in these demos with us, and we always say, you're going to learn a lot about licensed versus non-licensed tasks, even if you don't do business with us. Because why would entering data into a form to generate the COI, why would that be a licensed task? The issuance, the transmission, all those things of that sort, or to actually sign off on. I think there's some sort of nuance in this answer too. We are a company, and we advise any agency, even if they don't use us, don't hire a licensed person overseas. Right? Why would you muddy that water? Instead, prioritize and delineate the difference between where your license starts and stops and where the VE work starts and stops. The moment you blend that line, you might as well go to Sean and say, hey man, you're back in the phone queue. Right? The moment you start taking on doing COIs philosophically, you're going to do all of them. Right? So have that degree of separation. Question 2, this might be a threshold, what we will and won't do. You may, in your agency, you may not quote monoline auto, but in the off chance that you do, should you keep that or let a VE enter that quote data? Sean's a little frustrated, I can tell by his face. He gets to answer first.
No, yeah, definitely delegate it. And I think this is something AI is going to take over sooner or later, but you would still need a VE to manage it. That bot or whatever is looking over that system. So definitely delegate it.
I'm blown away sometimes, agency principals of any size. And sometimes I'm blown away at the larger agency size, past the scratch experience, right? We're a $20 million, $15 million agency, and I'm talking to the principal, and he's like, yeah, I'm still running my own quotes. What? Why?
Yeah.
To your
not
point,
just
Sean,
auto.
in 3 to 5 years, maybe sooner, VEs won't do as much entering data. They'll be managing the software that enters the data, right? Okay, next one. It's funny. It says chasing mortgagee, but I think another way that I call this in our demos is billing drama. Billing, accounting, invoicing drama. Anybody with a license wanting to keep that, let me know. Let us know in the comments. Matt says, Sean, what was the name of that book again?
There's No Plan B for Your A Game by Bo Eason.
Okay. This is the controversial one. Sean, Steven, would you trust the VE that we put in your group? Would you trust them to be able to fully execute, build, and put together a drip campaign on the sales/business development side? Whether or not they know it raw, they might know it raw, but would you actually trust them to run that project?
Yeah, I think it would need to be a collaborative approach, but yeah, they could at least do the data entry for it. And I think if you had an SOP built out for it, 100%.
Can I share something that's a little similar to this that I
Go
think
ahead.
is another idea of like how would I use a V? Recently, we moved about 6 months ago. We moved CRMs from an old CRM to Agency Zoom, and Emmanuel in our office, the VE with VI, basically managed that whole project. So yes, I was making sure that it was all set up and everything looked good. But when I said, hey, I want our sales pipeline to look like this, I put it on a white sheet of paper, right? This is what I want to go. This is what I want to go. Emmanuel was on the calls with Agency Zoom in that case, and he went in and set up everything and set up the pipeline. So now, honestly, it's gotten to the point where if I have a question about it, I go to him before I try to figure out how to do it because he's become the expert in that. So I think it's just a nuance of like, what else can they do besides quoting, changes, stuff like that. Like he's led a lot of projects like that for us that have been very successful.
Amen. And look, like we say all the time with our folks that we find for you, step one should be the insurance stuff, right? Step two should be somebody like a chief of staff or a chief administrative officer, somebody you can really lean into. Look, it's not about the cost. You can go find cheap anywhere. Rachel Strom, new customer of ours, said she found a VE in our portal that has true marketing experience, and I know she's going to leverage that. She's got a good marketing mind too, and she's going to be able to say, "Hey, we need to get a message out to bump up our credibility about commercial lines. We need to target the service industry, right? Let that VE go leverage their resources that they have, because again, the VE you get from virtual intelligence is not just a quoter. It's somebody who has access to the internet, is a problem solver, a smart person, and that's the lifestyle of a business leader that you want. You will not get that by paying the cheapest prices. Okay, we've got 7 minutes in. We're going to go more rapid fire. Next up, anybody that can guess the song that I play from the spring break era, okay? And we're gonna have some fun with it. So, the first song that we have here, anybody can chat or say it out loud. Name the artist and this song. Are you familiar? Hold on just a second. You guys hear sound now?
Nope.
Okay, hold on.
It's 5 years older than me. That's unfair.
I still
All
can't
right.
believe I know this song.
Yeah. Wow, that was a I'm the youngest person on the call flex by Athena there. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. But hey, look, we chose no scrubs because as agency owners, you should not take any scrubs as clients. You have minimum thresholds, and you should make sure that you protect the viability of your agency at all times. Okay, next one. Name that song. Name that artist.
I know you got this one. Steven sings this every day on the way to work.
Is it hot in here?
Yes, Stephen, hot in here. Congratulations. Yeah, we chose
I
hot.
sing it every day on the way to work.
Yeah, we chose hot in here because we know the life of an
Oh,
insurance
man.
agent can get hot, right? It can get spicy, it can get weird at times. All right, song 3. This one's a good one. They still play it in stadiums all the time. Somebody give me the artist and the song.
Mr. Brightside.
That's right, because look on the bright side. You got an opportunity to change the landscape of your agency, okay? Song 4. Ooh, this one's tough. This one is tough. I will take an artist on this one.
Song, I forgot. My wife would kill me.
Anybody, you got Ja Rule and J Lo. Any lob on the title of the song, we'll keep playing it just so. I'm real.
Oh,
And we
yeah,
chose
yeah.
that because with a VE, you get to have real talk with customers and you get to be real and not just the idea of an insurance agent. Last song for the segment here. This one's an easy one. It's a fun one to sing. Somebody's got to get it quick.
Yo, open up, man.
An easy one, he says.
Shaggy, right?
Yep.
I don't know how I let
Let's
this
go for
happen.
the song
A
title.
little inappropriate, but I'll
Girl
take
next
it.
door, you know?
Well, we went.
I don't know
Good
what
call.
to
It
do.
is a little
You're
inappropriate.
trying to get us dropped by our carriers over here. I don't know what's going on, David.
Well, what that song was a representation of is some of the claim denial stories that you guys have to go through, right?
There you go.
Where a submission was just not true. Your insured was like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. So, look, in the last 3 minutes, I want to say two cool things that'll now be recorded and reshared with our platforms. VI is absolutely in lockstep with Scratch Agency Podcast, and so we want to offer a discount for anybody that's a Scratch agent that's in that Scratch mode. Scan this QR code because we're not just going to do a little discount because, again, it's not about cost. We've done some really cool things where we've done some one-on-one coaching, some SOP starter kit type stuff to prompt them, and I'll actually do with our team, myself, Mitch, or others, some accountability calls. Because and those are all things that I don't really have revenue tied to. This is just to say you're a Scratch agency owner and you have taken the boldest step to keep the industry alive. The very least we can do is give you a discount, scan the QR code. But really what we're interested in is helping you form that thing that agent asked me, what should I be doing here? What should I expect? Is it fair for me to expect X, Y, Z? What do Sean and Steven do? What do Jason, Michael, and Travis do? What does Mitch think? You can't do it alone because sometimes you can't even answer the phone when you're trying to scratch your agency, right? And then we would be remiss if we didn't thank Sean and Steven for their contributions, not only today, but to shining the light on Scratch agents. And look, I said this before the call. I don't care if you're a $20 million, $30 million, $40 million agency, like I said, sometimes the big shops forget what it was like when they scratched that agency. Maybe it was generations ago. But sometimes everybody needs to remember where we came from. And the biggest agencies are in the spot that Sean and Steven have started at the beginning of their agency careers and said, hey, we are not the biggest agencies, but we're already going to start reaching back and rising up and raising up and providing guidance and support to those folks. So this QR code is going to get you over to the VI landing page. It talks about our partnership. I can assure you we will be doing more collabs with this team and everything that they're doing. And then lastly, if you want to get some time with VI to talk, whether you're a Scratch agency or not, we want to help. Because we know that just handing you a cheap piece of labor, somebody we found on the internet to work in your agency isn't going to work. We want to work with you to help you not just get you a VE, but help you with your technology, your workflows, your automation. So that QR code. But Sean, Steven, thank you guys so much for being here. As you know, myself, everybody at Virtual Intelligence, and now through the AI Podcast Network as well, we're big fans of not just you guys, your specific insurance agencies, but also the mission that you share with aligned business values and through Scratch Agency Podcast. So thank you guys for being here today. I really greatly appreciate it. And for anybody following along, the millions and millions following along at home, thank you so much for joining. Make sure to stay tuned. We already have May, June, and July webinars for VI booked out with some fascinating content. Light shows are still a possibility in all future costumes, light shows. We got some fun ones cooking up. Thank you guys, everyone, for joining. Davey Holt, President of Virtual Intelligence. Thank you all. Have a great week.